Hello and welcome to this demo of SquashTM, which will introduce you to the key parts of the application. To begin, I remind you that Squash is an open source tool composed of free elements available in the community offer and paid components and plugins, part of the premium offer. It's also a full web tool, so there is no need to install it on client computers. You just have to connect to SquashTM thanks to a login and a password. Squash is a multi-project and inter-project tool. So multi-project because a user can access several projects at the same time, and inter-projects because you can share elements between several projects. Here is the SquashTM homepage. No matter where we are in the application, we will always see this navigation bar here, which allows access to the workspace of SquashTM. The first one is the requirements workspace in blue, which allows you to create, organize, and trace requirements. The second one is the test case workspace in green to create, manage, modularize, and use variables on test cases. And the third one is the campaign workspace in purple to manage, plan, and run the test campaigns. We will come back to their specificities later. In addition to workspaces dedicated to test monitoring here or automation, we also find at the bottom of the navigation bar the administration workspace and an entry point to the help menu to directly access the SquashTM online documentation available in French or in English. The menu at the bottom allows you to access your account or to log out. On this page, on the right, it's possible to display, like it's the case here, a personalized message by the administrator or a dashboard to follow the progress of projects. Now, let's look at the requirements workspace here. The general layout is the same for the three main workspaces of SquashTM, so we will discover some aspects of this layout via the requirements workspace. On the left, there is a library containing the tree view of your projects, while on the right, this is the consultation page of the current selected element in your library. There are several buttons at the top of the library, which are the same for the three workspaces. They are used to create items, to copy them, paste, suppress, import or export them, to configure the display of the library, or access the research workspace. Let's look at the tree view of the requirements library. The name of the project appears in the color of the workspace in which we are. So here it is in blue. And here we have three projects, but we can filter one or several of them thanks to the project filter menu here, where you can select the projects you want to see in the application. These projects are then to be displayed in the library of the different workspaces of the application and at the level of the features calling the repository of a library. In front of the name of each project, we have an icon which indicates the permissions we have on it. In this case, the star means that we have the rights for creation and deletion, modification, and reading. Inside the projects, we find the requirements, here organized in folder and subfolders. I select one of the requirements, this one or this one, to access on the right the consultation page of this requirement. It's possible to assign or edit the reference of the requirement. For instance, I make it like this. This reference is automatically updated in the library and is here to facilitate the organization and readability of the repository. The reference depends on the naming conventions to be defined with your test teams. The information block here contains the basic attributes of the requirement: its criticality, its status, its category, which is customizable by project. All this information can be found in the library thanks to the icon just before the name of the requirements. These basic attributes can be then completed with custom fields of various types like simple or rich text, checkboxes, drop-down list, or date, for instance. It is possible to edit all these attributes directly from the information block, as here. I can change. Next, we have the description of the requirements. This is the main part in which we reveal what the requirement corresponds to. Here, in the description, we are in a rich text format, so we can put bold, italic, change the color of the text, its size, or, for instance, add a table or an image. The other part of the consultation page can be easily accessed thanks to different retractable blocks, as this one, or this one, and each part can be accessed by the answers here. To access directly to the test cases verifying this requirement, for instance, we can select it and we are automatically on this block. We can see in this case that there is only one test case. I will show you later how to make the association. Note that we can access an element by its URL, so it is the case for the requirement, as I can show you there, here, but it's also the case with dashboards or test plans. In the requirements workspace, you can also create high-level requirements to describe macro features or blocks of features that can be broken down into traditional requirements. In SquashTM, they are presented as new type of requirement that allows you to organize and manage the repository by adding a higher level than traditional requirements. High-level requirements allow you to track the coverage and validation of more macro features. To understand how it works, I invite you to discover the Squash Minute 21, linked in the description of this video on YouTube. Let's move on to the test case workspace here. The layout of this workspace is the same as for the other workspaces, but the green color reminds us that we are in the test case workspace. This workspace is at the heart of SquashTM since it links the requirements and campaigns workspace. In the same way as for requirements, test cases can be organized in folders and subfolders within the projects. In the library, we can always find the colored dot here, indicating the weight of the test case, and some icons there to inform you about its nature, its status, or let you know if this test case is associated with requirements or if it contains test steps. When hovering over the icon, a tooltip details the information provided by each icon or symbol. On the right-hand side at the top, you can see the name of the test case, its reference, but also 3 capsules, giving you information about its status, work in progress, approved, etc., its weight, low, medium, high, or very high, and the status of its last execution. The paperclip in the upper right corner allows you to attach documents to the test case by dragging grab them into the dedicated insert or by browsing the local directory. I can take it there. And then a number is displayed to show you how many attachments are attached to your test case. This paperclip icon is also visible from every item in the requirements and campaigns workspace. To modify the attributes of a test case, this is done in the same way as in the requirements workspace. From the consultation page, we have a table that shows the requirements verified by this test case here, and we can access to this table here. In this case, our test case checks only one requirement. To add other requirements, click the plus button, and all the requirements are then displayed on the right-hand side of the screen, and we can link them to this test case by a simple drag and drop. So, selecting some of them and drag and drop them, they are here. A clickable link on the name of the requirements takes you directly to the requirements consultation page. For instance, this one. You can go back here. To delete some requirements, you can select the line and click on the minus button here and delete. If you want to delete some of them, select them together and click the minus button on the top. Let's move on to the prerequisites and test steps available here. They allow you to note the preconditions for the test execution and the details of all the steps required to execute the test case. Test steps have two main components: the actions on the left, which are what the tester must do, and the expected result on the right, which are what the application should return once the tester has done these actions. The order of the test steps can be easily changed. Just select a test step and drag and drop it to change its position. To do so, you can also click there. To edit a test step, you just have to click on it and enter the change you want to make. We can also call a test case in the case where steps are common to several test cases. A called test case is then seen as a test step of the calling test case. The call of test cases is done from the prerequisites and test steps table, thanks to, for instance, a drag and drop from the library before or after any test cases. You have also the possibility to call a test case directly before a test case, thanks to this button. Now let's talk about parameters and datasets. Parameters and datasets allow to make test cases more variable by valuing their parameters with datasets. Parameters can be defined in these fields, prerequisites, action, or expected results, for a classic test case as this one. The generic formula for a variable is $brace variable name brace. Here, browsers have been parameterized. The parameters defined in the test steps and prerequisites are automatically transferred to the parameters and datasets table that you can access by clicking here. The datasets allow to define sets of values for these parameters. So in this example, when we will add this test case to an execution plan, it will be added 3 times because there are 3 datasets. At the runtimes, the tags with the name of the variable will be replaced by the values of the datasets, Firefox, Chrome, or Edge, as we will see later. Let's go back to the information block here and select a BDD test case. A BDD test case for behavior-driven development is based on the Gherkin syntax, which is adapted to automation and used to write test cases in a language that can be understood by non-technical people. BDD test cases differ from classic test cases in the structure of their test step, as we can see in this test steps table. To create a test step for a BDD test case, select a keyword from the drop-down list here, and then enter an action. Depending on the input, actions already present in other test cases are suggested to the user and can therefore be reused. The actions are managed in the Action workspace with the premium offer. To be complete, actions can also contain variables. If you want to automate a BDD test case, the script associated with the test case can be sent to a Git repository in the format expected by Cucumber or Robot Framework, depending on the automation technology of the project. Now let's look at the search workspace of SquashTM here. And note that this workspace is accessible in the requirements and campaign workspace. From this page, we can easily search for test cases, knowing that by default, the search parameter is that of the project filter selected before here. But if you want to customize the parameters of your search, you can do this directly by selecting or deselecting the projects in which you want to search. In this example, if I am looking for all the test cases whose name contains the term bunker in my active projects, by selecting Add a Criterion, selecting Name, and entering bunker, click Update, and I get a result directly accessible on the right side of my screen, and I can click the button at the end of the line to consult them individually. We can repeat the operation on this selected list by searching all test cases whose weight is very high or high, for instance. So I add a criterion, select the attribute weight, and select high and very high. Note that the results on the right side updates dynamically, so we can see the results of our search as we add criteria. It is also possible to mass modify some of the results of our search by modifying the attributes. For instance, I say all these test cases have a very high weight, confirm, and it is automatically updated. We can also select them and export them if necessary. Now let's look at the dashboards. So let's go back to our test case workspace. Here we are at the root of our project. So dashboards are displaying here are about all the test cases included in our project. If we wanted to adapt our selection in the tree structure, by clicking on a folder, my dashboard is automatically updated with data related only to the test cases included in this folder. Let's go back to our root project. Here we see the default dashboard with the charts automatically generated by Squash. There are automatically generated charts also displayed in the requirements workspace and the campaign workspace. Here, the requirement associations graph, for example, shows the number of test cases that are related to any one or more than one requirements. The following graphs sort them by status, weight, or size. As I hover each portion of a graph, a tooltip appears to give us the key information. Then, if I click a portion of a graph here, I will access the list of all the test cases meeting the criteria highlighted by the graph. Here, the 7 test cases with a medium weight. In the same way as before, we can then select them and change their weight by modifying their attributes. I'm moving to the campaigns workspace. In Squash TM, the campaign, here, here, and here, corresponds to all the test cycles performed on an application before it is put into production or pre-production. The campaign is then divided in iteration, here, 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 and here. An iteration corresponds to one of these test cycles. We see there that there are always our 3 projects, here, 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 and the purple color visually reminds us that we are in the campaign workspace. Here we are on the consultation page of an iteration, and the tab we will show today is the execution plan tab, here, which allows you to organize and manage the steps from the iteration you have selected in the library. By playing with the width of the library and reducing the navigation bar, for instance, you can find the balance that suits you best without losing readability. This execution plan gives a view with the different information about the test cases, like their execution mode, for instance. Here they are manual, the weight of each test case, the status of each test case, and the user assigned to their execution. Here, our iteration contains one test suite, materialized by a tag here. Test suites are ways of organizing test cases, of grouping them in order to create an image of a part of the test plan of an iteration. This makes it possible to chain the execution of test cases with a common theme. To learn more about the creation and execution of test suites, you can watch the Squash Minute 22, accessible in the description below if you are on YouTube. To add a test case to this execution plan, you just have to click the plus button here Then select the test case in the tree view you want to add and drag and drop it at the middle. Here it is the test case we just added, and it has been added 3 times. As I tell you before, it is because it contains 3 different datasets, which are the browsers. To remind you also that I can add test cases from another project. As SquashTM is an inter-project tool, I can also add a test case from another project on which I have at least consultation rights. So here is another one with different datasets. Then I can select these test cases and delete them from the execution plan. To build execution plans, it is also possible to search for test cases from this magnifying glass here, or use wizards, accessible here, that guide the user in building the execution plan. I'm going to show you how to run a test. To do so, you just have to click the play button at the end of the line, the test case you want to execute, and using the pop-up, a new window is displayed with the information of the test case, its prerequisites, its verified requirements, and its attachments. I will start the execution by clicking the play button here. Our variable is now replaced by Firefox, as I told you before. And more globally, I see the first test step of my test case, and I know how to do and what will be the expected result of my action. For this demo, we imagine that all the test steps are passed. So my test is now completed. The status and the last execution date is automatically updated in the execution plan table. Now let's imagine we want to execute a second test case, but this one is failed. So I begin the execution and I want to report a new anomaly to my developer team. For this demo, we are connected with Jira and benefit from the Jira BT plugin, which is included in the SquashTM Premium offer. It is also possible to connect SquashTM with other bug trackers, as Mantis, natively integrated with SquashTM, Azure DevOps, GitLab, Redmine, RTC, or Tulip. If this is the first time you log in with your bug tracker in SquashTM, you will need to enter your credentials before accessing the issue table here. So here I click the plus button and report a new issue. I select the type of ticket bug and enter the error. Note that all the fields that are displayed here are those set up in Jira for a given project and ticket type. The description of the anomaly is automatically pre-filled by Squash with test data to make it easier to reproduce. I add the issue here, and this issue is automatically added in the issue table. This link here allows you to access to the Jira ticket. I specified that this test step is in failure here, and I quit the execution window. We can see that the general status of the tests is failed in red because the test step has been declared failed. By clicking the date of the last execution, we access the details of the execution and also the link of the Jira ticket containing the details of the anomaly here. Let's go back to our execution plan. To finish, there is a known issues tab here, which allows you to access all the bugs reported in your iteration by your testing team and the number under the bug, allowing you to know how many known issues have been reported. Finally, I'm going to show you briefly the reporting workspace. In this area, it is possible to create a new chart which will be customized to allow the user to create his own indicators, to create a report such as test booklets, or customized dashboard, or customized campaign exports. Here, let's create a simple chart. Select, for instance, an attribute from the test cases, let's say status, drag and drop it at the center. The chart is automatically updated and you can add it to your library by clicking the Add button. The new chart is here. And now let's see how to use it in a dashboard. A dashboard, as we can show you here, allows you to collect charts or reports and display them on the same page. Once the dashboard is added, charts and reports created in any project can be placed in the dashboard using drag and drop. For instance, if we are in our test case dashboard, we can select our new chart and drag and drop it in the dashboard, which is automatically updated. Let's see another dashboard for the campaign dashboard, for instance, and you can see that reports inserted in dashboards can be directly downloaded from the dashboard. It's finally on the consultation page of a dashboard that you can add them thanks to the favorite button and display them in different spaces of Squash TM. That's it. We've covered the main features of Squash TM. Thanks for watching this demo and see you soon for more Squash tips.